Hey, folks, Alan Saunders on Pittsburgh Sports Live, and the Pittsburgh Pirates are the best team in Major League Baseball. April Fools? Well, maybe. It is the 1st of April, and the Pirates are the best team in Major League Baseball, at least for right now, after a 1-0 opening day victory over the Chicago Cubs at Wrigley Field. A 5-3 victory over the Cubs at Wrigley Field, and a very interesting opening day performance that seemed to drag on forever. We're going to be joined by Nubjyas Wilson of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, who should be joining us in progress here. But lots to talk about after the Pirates took, nearly 4 hours to take care of the Cubs in a afternoon game to start the season. And Nubjyas is standing by, so we'll get to him right away. Nubjyas, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes, sir.
Awesome.
That happens in Wi-Fi, so I can hear you.
There you go. An interesting game for the Pirates in a number of ways here on opening day. Obviously, get the start to the season they were looking for with a win over the Chicago Cubs. But I think the way they did it, certainly not what anyone was expecting, with a short performance from Chad Kuhl and a dominant one from the Pittsburgh bullpen. Did you have expectations for this game? And I know I didn't really have many, but man, what do you make out of the way the Pirates win this one?
I mean, it's kind of tough to have much expectations of a team that has Chad. No offense to Chad. He has a wonderful story. He's a very nice young man. I really enjoyed interactions with Chad and his lovely wife during, my time on the Bucko beat. And he's someone who I really respect for what he's done to come back from the injuries. But it's hard to have high expectations when Chad Kuhl is your opening day starter. And, unfortunately, he struggled a bit. But, credit to the Pirate bullpen. You got a lot of solid performances. And shout out, obviously, I know we're going to mention the young man, the young superstar in the making, potentially, and Brian Hayes. But really credit to that bullpen for – keeping what should be a good Cubs lineup pretty much off the board there.
Yeah, I think the bullpen was maybe the surprise of the game for me. I mean, not to say that I don't think some of those guys are talented. I mean, Rodriguez has shown he's a pretty reliable guy back there over the last couple of years. And I think Chris Stratton's numbers, if you dig a little deeper than the surface, have shown plenty of promise, but
yeah, Stratton was pretty solid in 2019, struggled a little bit in 2020, but he seems to be pretty good, had a decent spring. Sam Howard, Carterville High's second most popular alum there. I don't know if people caught that one, but somebody's got to be number 2 at Cartersville. So shout out to him and Bednar, and then of course, Richie Rod. This is a guy who 2018 had a really good year. 2019, he got sent back down to the minors, and then 2020 was what it was for him. And, he looked good today. this is the Rich Rod who they thought they were going to have. And, hey, it worked out. And shout out to, Holmes getting back out there. He's a guy who probably would have had a good 2020 if it wasn't for some injuries. Struggled with some stuff in 2019. So, these are a lot of guys who, for a day, put it together. And, anytime you have to cover 6 innings as a bullpen, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, I think you hit the key there, for a day. I'm not sure that's a winning recipe for the Pirates going forward, is just relying on needing 6 innings of 1-run relief, especially – that's an impressive performance from guys like Howard, Holmes, Bednar, but they also don't have the kind of MLB pedigree that suggests they're going to go up there and do that night in and night out. I think, this is a pitching staff that is really going to struggle for starting pitching all year, especially, with Stephen Brault injured. But they've got to at least get more than 3 innings out of guys. I thought that was really a disappointing start from Chad Kuhl. But you really, I think, hit on the big – as good as the bullpen was, if nothing else happens good for the Pirates this year, and it's certainly possible that this might be the only good thing, man, if Brian Hayes is a star, and he certainly looks like he might be, that's the best big thing that can happen for this team, right?
Well, absolutely. Well, that and Adam Frazier, increasing his trade possibilities with the RBI there today. So, respect to that. And you look down the lineup, several guys. Newman continued to hit from spring training. He definitely brought his bat with him up from Bradenton. So he had 2 hits today. And then you look down the line, Stallings, the catcher. This is a guy who, it's so funny because when I was on that beat, I remember when he got DFA'd and the Pirates had to pick him back up because nobody wanted him. I was kind of shocked that nobody would pick up at least a good defensive catcher in Jacob Stallings. As I see your pit banners back there, obviously, the Stalling name is kind of infamous in this town, to say the least. But listen, man, he's a good player who has continued to get better and improve, and he's a guy you could look at. If you want to pull at some straws to find some positives, you can. They were able to get a couple off Hendricks, who's supposed to be pretty good, and they were able to play decent defense. It's one game, and plus it was weird, cold, and snowy. I think they got more snow in Chicago than they did here in Pittsburgh, I guess, but I don't know if it was much better or much worse.
Yeah, I have a real hard time. So I gotta, it's always overreactions from game 1 of 162, always, but especially when all these guys have been playing in Florida and Arizona for 2 months, and now they go to Chicago and it's 32. The wind is whipping. It's freezing cold. I especially for the pitchers, that's just such an enormous adjustment. And it's really hard to really take too much from one game in those conditions. I know how long the baseball season really is, the grind of it for people that are in it, but it really just, man, what are we doing playing in the snow? Like, there's got to be a way.
It's so weird because I would have thought this would have been a year where if you were going to start the season in some type of southern bubble, this would be the year to do it. Even though I guess in Texas, apparently you could sell out the stadium there, which I still don't understand what the Rangers are doing with 45,000. I don't even think the Astros are doing that. So I don't know what's going on in Dallas with them, but whatever. But they probably could have found a way to set this up. If the Blue Jays have to train and have to stay in Dunedin, which I will give a little bit of credit, that's a nicer ballpark than it was. They did remodel it. It's still a minor league ballpark, though.
Before they remodeled it, it was maybe one of the worst minor league ballparks.
Oh, no, it was terrible. It was a terrible, terrible place. And it's a shame that a lot of people didn't really get to experience it last year. Because that's why I was still doing Pirates, and I was down, and I was like, oh, wow, they actually did a really nice job. But, it's still a minor league ballpark where, the Blue Jays have to start their season. And I just think if baseball wanted to, this could have been the year where you find a way to do this thing where maybe you put some teams in Florida, maybe you put some teams where some domes are. I don't know, but this snow thing is silly. And we know it happens. You have to call it climate change now. If you call it global warming, people will say, well, it's still cold. No, idiot. But anyway, the point is, man, at some point, baseball's going to have to look at this, maybe even push the season back. I don't know, but it's odd to see games played in those type of temperatures. It's not how baseball's supposed to be played.
Yeah, and it's hard to take it seriously when you have guys out there throwing in 30 degrees that haven't done it. They only played in the summer last year. So even if somebody's like played on a northern team and is used to pitching in the cold, it's been 2 years since they did it.
Exactly. So yeah. And you didn't have any build up to it. You basically, these guys, just because the Pirates broke camp, what was it, Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Yeah, 2 days ago. On Tuesday. And I'm assuming they flew up, spent the night in Chicago and then obviously played the game today. But even with that, think about this, you're probably not all sharing the same hotel because you're still, doing things a little different. You're not still having, meetings and all types of things. And they definitely probably weren't going outside of the room. So they probably came from Florida, got on the plane. And if you don't understand how these team shuttles work, pretty much you don't touch outside once you're on the plane, so, or even when you get to the bus takes you to the hotel. There you go. So yeah, those boys probably didn't get outside until they got to the ballpark. And as nice of a ballpark is for fans at Wrigley, not exactly the best working conditions, especially for the road team. So yeah, now I would imagine that had to be a little bit of a joke there for both sides.
I want to talk some big picture stuff just at the start of the season. I know it's been an interesting off season here in Pittsburgh. Obviously, the Pirates are charitably rebuilding, if not actually tanking, I guess you could say. But it just seems like what's happened around the league has really soured some people on the economics of baseball here. I mean, to see what the Pirates are going through, and then to see, just the other day, Lindor's contract in the Mets and teams really throwing monopoly money around what the Dodgers have been able to do. It feels like the combination of those factors, to me anyway, has really kind of depressed the interest for baseball at large here. And obviously, you from the Atlanta area, you covered the Braves, you worked in some other cities around the country. Do you feel like that's a national problem, or is that just a problem here in Pittsburgh?
Oh, geez. Well, it's multi-layered. I will say, of every place I've ever been, I don't know if I've been to a city that knows the name of the owner the way that people speak about Bob Nutting. A lot of times fans will be like, oh, yeah, like they'll talk about the team. But if you ask Braves fans, some may know Liberty Media owns a team, but they don't know that there's a man named Larry who's actually the chairperson of Liberty Media. And that Liberty Media actually makes their books open. The Braves are one of the few teams where you can see how much they make because they have public statements. It's the Braves, like the Green Bay Packers, because they're publicly held. You can kind of get an idea of their books. So at least with the Braves, but most fans won't go look because, I mean, it's complicated. It's not fun. But the business of baseball is a weird thing. And here, people know Bob Nutting's name. They know who he is. They know what he looks like, which I will give him credit. He shows up to the ballpark. At least he did, pre-COVID. He's there regularly, driving up from West Virginia. I guess over, up, whichever one it is.
Yeah, mostly over, I think, but yeah.
Over, around, and through, and he gets to the ballpark, and he's regular at spring training and all that stuff. So he's present. But, I mean, listen, here's what it really boils down to. The Pirates can make money without winning. Sports in general, teams can make money without ever winning. So why would you spend a whole bunch of money if the money doesn't go up, whether you win or not? Now, I don't think I'm not saying Bob, I know Bob Nutting would like to win games. He would like to win games. He would like to win a championship. I don't know if he's desperate for one. Because in my worldview, how I look at sports, typically there's what I consider three types of owners. There's group one, and this is rarer now than ever. We're just happy to own a team. This has been our lifelong dream, and we're just happy to own a team. Whatever happens, happens, because, we just want to own a team. All right. Then there's this second group, and I believe most owners, including Bob, are probably in this second group. They like to win if it don't cost too much. If you don't have to build too many facilities, if you don't have to actually get a Francisco Lindor type contract or something like that, or like one of the deals Fernando Tatis signed. If you don't have to do that and you can still win, we'll take it. But, And then there's the third owner, and this owner is very rare nowadays. Like George Steinbrenner comes to mind. Ted Turner back in the day comes to mind. A man who owned the Tigers and Pistons, he comes to mind. Like, I mean, the man that guy died darn near penniless because he was so dedicated to spending money on the teams winning. He wanted to win. Al Davis was one of those type of owners. Jerry Jones was one of those types of owners. He says he is, but the moves he makes doesn't necessarily correlate with being one that truly is invested in winning. And I don't think Bob Nutting is truly invested in winning in the ways in which he would like for people to believe. Now, personally, I find Bob to be a nice man. And I know this is going to upset people in Pittsburgh when I say this, and that's fine. I dealt with him when I was on the beat. But I like Bob as a human being from person to person. And quite honestly, if it were my money, I don't know if I'd do things very much differently either. Because he's not one of these like super billionaire type guys.
Right.
I mean, he ain't broke. Don't get me wrong. I mean, listen, I'm probably the last person you'll meet.
Yeah, but we have a pretty solid understanding of what the newspaper business is like. It is not exactly. Yeah. He is not Scrooge McDucking anywhere into a pile of money.
Nowhere near. He ain't got that kind of money. All right, because he owns small. I mean, listen, and I'm not knocking him. And obviously, his father was a great man and all that stuff. And I get it. I mean, he owns a ski resort. It's like, come on, dude. He ain't got that kind of money. And again, and I'm not saying this. I mean, I'm a journalist, so I can't talk about anybody's money. All right. I mean, I make a very, average salary. Right. So, but my point is, he ain't got Jerry Jones money. Okay. He just doesn't. And I know people hate these words that I'm going to use. I know people don't like it, but it is kind of true. Think about it. When's the last time the Pirates ever had an owner who really went for it? McClatchy didn't go for it. McClatchy didn't do it. Also a newspaper man, which, kind of explains some things, right?
Well, that's either there's something wrong with baseball that keeps teams from the Pirates from consistently being good, or the Pirates have just had the horrible luck of having 5 straight bad owners, right? Like, I mean, at some point,
horrible luck, or is it just
right?
Yeah.
At some point, you got to look at but I don't see, and maybe because I don't, I'm not in with a bunch of fan bases, but I don't see this sort of like big national groundswell, like this baseball is broken and when are we going to fix it? It seems like baseball fans like the way baseball is, even though it's the only, and it's very interesting that, like, you talk about Jerry Jones, like, well, how committed is he to winning? Well, the other sports all kind of give their owners an out, right? Because if you spend to the salary cap, well, you're doing all you can, right? Now, maybe you're not doing all you actually can.
Right. Because there's no thing with salary caps. There's no thing with that. You know what they don't cap? The coaches.
Right.
Like, and I say this like for
the facility.
Right. All that stuff. You can spend as much money as you want to on that. And I say this like I look at like the Atlanta Falcons, who signed Arthur Smith, 38-year-old guy who may end up being a great coach. I'm pretty sure they're not paying him what they'd have to pay somebody with some
Urban Meyer.
Right. Now, if it works out, great. But that is an area, not only the head coach, assistant coaches, strength staff.
The number of coaches has been an issue here in Pittsburgh with the Steelers. People have been talking about how the Steelers have one of the smaller coaching staffs. So I do think that's one of the things that puts baseball owners under the microscope, is because those other sports, well, it's like, oh, well, we spend to the salary cap, or we get close to the salary cap, and that's all we can do because that's the rules. It's not all they can do, and it goes beyond that. But I think
here's the thing, though. Even with the Pirates, like, there's just things they've missed out on development, and even then, just some of the moves they've made. I mean, listen, man, I say this carefully because I like Chris. I like Chris Archer, and I think he's gonna do well down in Tampa. But that was an ill-advised move. It's not Chris's fault, and quite honestly, it probably wasn't Neil's fault either. But it had to be done, because they had to present that they were trying to go for it when they probably shouldn't have. That should have been the time where you stay pat. Now, how bad that trade ends up looking just gets worse and worse. And heaven forbid if Shane Bads ends up becoming really good.
Yeah.
Now,
saw Meadows home run today. Right. I saw some Glasnow wiffle balls today. Yeah. It never ends. That trade, I think we're going to be relitigating for years.
I mean,
back to this team, though. Yeah. We talked about not having a lot of expectations for this game. Obviously, this is a season that's, just looking at the talent on the roster, probably not going to go real well for the team. What are you looking for? What are you trying to get out of these 162 games to try to tell you something about the way this team's headed?
Oh, I mean, me personally, or if I were a fan, or
I think you personally, or maybe if you are a fan, like what
Okay. Well,
when you watch today, what are you looking to try to see about? Like, well, I didn't know that, or this is maybe something that could change the way. If this happens this way, this could change the outcome for this team.
Okay, listen. I want to see how Brian plays in the full season. I want to see what that looks like. I want to see what he is. Outside of that, I mean, okay, I would like to see if Brian Reynolds can be 2019 Brian Reynolds versus 2020 Brian Reynolds. I think that's reasonable to want to see. I want to see where Gregory Polanco is now. And I know his name gets people going in this town, but I still think there's something left in there. Now, whether he gets it out with the Pirates or he ends up getting traded, like everybody else does, sure. I want to see, does Adam Frazier step up and become tradable, and what you get from him? I also want to see maybe not the big league club, but now you got all these kids that you traded for over the last couple of years. Are any of them any good? And if so, when are you going to see him in Pittsburgh? Now, I understand that it takes a while to develop a baseball player. I get it. I mean, it's not very often going to be a Tatis Jr. where you're going to jump levels like in 6 months and be into the show. Like, that just doesn't happen that way. But I do want to see some of these guys that got in the international pool over the next couple of years develop. I do want to see what kind of manager Derek Shelton is. I do want to see if players are getting better, because ultimately, if this is what it's going to be, with Shelton and Ben Cherington and Travis Williams as the team president, I want to see how they handle things. I want to see how, like Tarek Block as a first base coach, how he continues to develop, how he continues to get players better. I mean, you got, an interesting mix with that coaching staff, with Oscar Marin and all those guys. I want to see who these guys are. And of course, don't forget about local boy Don Kelly. I mean, there's some reasons. I look at it like this, Adam. I'm gonna be real with you, man, Alan. It's like this. We know they're not going to be good. Everybody knows they're not going to be good. But you know what? After what we experienced last year in 2020, if you're able to be one of the ones who could be in that 25% who gets to go to PNC Park on opening day or sometime in the next couple of weeks, man, just go and enjoy the game. Just go sit, watch some baseball. If you're able to take your friend, be social distance, wear your mask, and just enjoy it. Just enjoy a baseball game, or put it on the TV. Greg Brown's still fun to listen to, and the Pirates do something good.
I was actually just thinking that today, man. Greg getting like a little bit too excited for like stuff that's on opening day, but it's good, man.
That's him though. Like, that's really him. That's listen, he works for the team, and the team pays his salary, and
that's just Greg. I mean, I think it'd be like that even if the team didn't pay his salary. That's just who he is, but it's awesome. It's awesome.
You get paid. He gets paid to talk about baseball games on TV. Yeah, I'd be excited too. I mean,
it was good. It was good, and I liked your list. I think that's some really good stuff about Derek Shelton and this management team. One of the things we saw when the Pirates were good, last decade was, they got some good players at the prime. They had, Andrew McCutchen and Neil Walker and Garrett Cole, and they had some success with some older guys that they brought in, like Russell Martin and AJ Burnett, but they also did some different things as a team that gave them a competitive edge. And I'm really excited to see if this group can come up with some of those things and implement them on the field. And this is a perfect year to do it, because what does it matter? I mean, if you go try something and you lose, oh, well, you're probably going to lose anyway. Look at who's playing. So I'm really excited to see that.
But also, too, another thing I'm really looking forward to is seeing how they continue within the scope of COVID. We saw a game get canceled today. All right, already. So I think the Nats, I saw they had 3 players test positive. What does that look like? Because one thing is for certain, there will be more games that won't happen this year. And then how does that impact the team? Like, let's say, well, I don't want to use names because, but let's say for the Nats, it's three of their best players. Let's say that, right? For sake of conversation. I don't want to name names. I don't want to use names, so it might be just because I don't want to confuse the listeners. But let's say that two or three of the top guys are the ones that get it, and they got to be out for however many days, and then whoever was with them got to be out. Well, now you got a weakened team that you're playing, and maybe like if you're the Pirates, you catch a team like that, maybe instead of losing 3 or 4, maybe you win 3 or 4. Now, I'm not saying that.
And I think that's heightened in baseball compared to other sports because of the format. You play a team 3 games in a row. So if you catch a team while they're shorthanded, you can really beat them up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be a thing. I mean, that's going to be part of this as long as we're doing it until more people are vaccinated. And I don't want to get into the vaccine conversation because people get weird about that. But, if you want to get it, get it. But I do want to see how that goes as teams become vaccinated, what that looks like. And, can there be a lot of things that happen? Plus, there's going to be injuries. There's going to be a lot of weird stuff. I also want to see who gets called up. Oh, yeah, I talked about the team. Like, what's up with Mitch Keller? Is he real? It's I'm not saying it's mess or get off the pot time, but we're kind of getting there with Mitch. Who is he? Is he a frontline starter? Is he an average guy? Is he another guy? Also, next week, when the Cubs come in, old friend alert. You're gonna have Trevor coming back, Trevor Williams.
Padres are coming too, so there'll be a couple of those.
Yeah, a couple old friend alerts. So Joe Musgrove, it's so weird, man, because Joe Musgrove was a really good guy to cover. Trevor was really nice. And it's a shame it didn't work out with those guys. Also, from afar, I'm curious to see what Jameson Taillon looks, with the Yankees. I want to see what Josh Bell looks like with the Nats. Listen, if you're a Pittsburgh baseball fan, there will be things to look for with this season, if nothing else, because you actually get to watch baseball. The games are going to be on TV and on the radio, and you might can go to some of them. And also, let's be real. By the time we get through the first couple of weeks, that 25% on a Wednesday night against the Marlins is going to feel like
pretty typical.
Yeah, it's going to feel pretty typical, man. So come on, man. Let's call a spade what a spade is, right?
Anything else you want to hit before we go? And how's obviously you cover Penn State and some other colleges for the PG now. How's spring football treating you?
It's been weird because everything is virtual like everything else is. So I haven't seen much of the team other than those little vignettes they show us. And of course, everybody catches every pass in those. So as far as all the vignettes,
you guys got a bunch of All-Americans there.
Yeah, they're gonna be undefeated. But I will say with Penn State before I get out of here is that I'm very interested to see what is up with Sean Clifford. You have now he has his 4th coordinator basically in 4 seasons there. And is Mike Yurcich the guy? I don't know, but we'll find out. But Penn State, as they do have a lot of talent, I think last year's 0-5 was an aberration. I'd be shocked if anything close to that happens next year. I think they go back to being somewhere between 8 to 10 wins and, get to a big-time bowl game, just a little bit short of the college football playoff.
That's Nubjyas Wilson. You can check his work out at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Thanks for joining me. Pirates, again, 5-3 winners over the Chicago Cubs. On opening day, we'll have more Pittsburgh postgame. Mike Osti tomorrow. Pirates and Cubs game 2. No, not tomorrow. I'm sorry, Saturday. And Anderson on the hill for the Pirates. And that one should be interesting. Mitch Keller on Easter Sunday. I'll have that one. So stay with Pittsburgh Sports Live as we get this baseball season rolling here in beautiful 30-degree weather in April. Hopefully we get the baseball weather to go along with the baseball games that we're having sometime soon. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your